But Dana's a really good friend. It's if I left Munster tomorrow and was homeless, I could call up Dana White and he'd say, "Come on over."
That's awesome.
Yeah, Dana White's a good guy.
So what prompted the decision to get into UFC in the first place? Because I guess it's like a similar. You had so much success with Supercross and NASCAR, and it's a demographic, right? It's like a male audience that's into some extreme shit, and the UFC is like pretty well as extreme as it gets. So what was the thought process to even get into it in the first place? And again, keeping in mind 10 years ago, the UFC was not the UFC we know now.
When we first talked to them, it was before I got there. They had, I think it was before they did the deal with Zions. They came to our folks, and they didn't make a deal for whatever reason, and they did a deal with Zions, and I guess the Zions people fell by the wayside, and they took ownership of Zions, and so the UFC, which was the Fertitta Brothers company, and Dana
Zuffa back then.
Zuffa owned Zions, and they put it all over the ring and thought, get all this publicity, we can sell a lot of drinks and all that. But I think they didn't have distribution or something. But for whatever reason, it flopped and didn't do good. So they came back to us, and I was there when they came back, and myself and my team went to lunch with a guy, and he says, we're going to change UFC. Instead of it having, random local sponsors on every fighter and just looking like it's a county fair deal, we're going to clean it up, do a fighter kit, do all this stuff and clean it really up, and really want Monster to be a part of it. And so I think the first year we didn't do it, and we finally came around and said, this is good. And I don't know who made the decision to do it. I was in the middle of negotiating and in the communication process, but it would have been, again, one of our executives, founders, that would have got together, because it was a big spend even then for us. But the whole deal was, and this is something unique, that they wanted to just sell us a brand on the fighter kit, and every fighter wore it. So like Reebok used to have, and now it's Venom maybe.
Venom.
Yeah, they wanted it to be Monster on one side and every fighter, and we said, that's really not the way we traditionally do things. We really want to compete against somebody, so we want to pick our own fighters. I said, okay. So the deal comes down, and they said, this is going to work fine. It says, Dana will pick the fighters for you. Now, I think in our original deal, we didn't get but a handful of fighters that we could have branding on. We got other branding on the ring and other stuff, right? And they said, just let Dana pick them. He knows them. We're like, no, we don't want you picking our fighters. We want to pick our fighters because we have our own reasons why we would pick one over the other, That kind of blew their mind for a while. But nonetheless, we started signing fighters directly. So in addition to our deal with UFC, we signed personal service agreements with fighters. Now we can have a lot of fighters in our deal. But nonetheless, that was something very unique to the sport that it took them a while to get their head around, because nobody did. But
very, very common practice in Supercross and motocross.
That's where we learned it, right? That's our roots.
Yep.
And so But I tell you why it works is they get a check from Monster. It says Monster Energy on that check that's sent to them with their name on it. They can cash. So they have a relationship with us. We have a manager and team that talks directly to them, works with them. They do appearances for us, totally separate from UFC. They like that, right?
Yep.
They feel like they've got a sponsor.
It's a legitimate relationship as a professional athlete.
Yes.
That's the direction that the UFC was really trying to go in that time period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's worked out, I think, very well for us to this day. We use the fighters a lot for appearances, from everything from our sales appearances to content to just hanging out and having a good time. We got Sean Strickland.
Yeah. Huge moto fan too.
Huge
by the way.
Well, our moto manager, Aaron Nixon. Him him and Strickland are on the same wavelength. And
cut from a pretty similar cloth.
They're on the same wavelength for some reason. I don't know, and nobody else in the building really is on Strickland's wavelength except Aaron. So guess what? Aaron manages Sean Strickland. They're in love, right? And
I think
Nixon,
they call that bromance, right?
Nixon's going to kill him on a dirt bike there. It's like, Sean, don't know you really shouldn't do this if you're going to fight next week.
It's wild, eh? He is a reckless individual, but I love it.
Oh, I love it too. And I like him. He's really a sweet guy.
Very
he really
nice
is.
guy, eh?
Yeah, he really is.
Says some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Very nice guy.
Yeah. He's a very nice guy, but he can come out with some crazy shit, and he knows it.
But you know what? It's one of those things, though. And this is one of the things I always have loved about Dana. Right? Is guys will do crazy shit. Like, do you ever remember Chris Lieben back in the day? Like, pull up a picture of Chris Lieben. You remember Chris Lieben? One of the Ultimate Fighter 1. This dude was as fucking mad as a cut snake, right? And he red hair, would fight everyone. Look at this guy.
Oh, wow. I don't remember.
Dude, this is one of the OG guys in the UFC, right? Came through the Ultimate Fighter 1. And it's like Dana always had this perspective. Like, look at who I'm fucking dealing with here, bro. Like, you want me to what? You want me to tell him what to say, tell him how to dress? This fucking guy gets in a cage for a living and beats the piss out of another dude who's also incredibly gifted at fighting. Like, I'm not in the business of micromanaging these psychos.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what we're doing here. And I think that level of commitment and awareness to the brand and the product and what we're all doing here, that's been something that he's never shied away from, never wavered from. And that's ultimately been a pretty massive key to his success, because look at that guy. There's no way you're telling that dude what to do.
No.
And Strickland, cut from the pretty similar cloth.
Well, Dana's in a unique position there, though, because he can give them a fight or not give them a fight, right? He can. He controls their livelihood to a big degree.
Yeah.
And some of them resent it, some of them don't. Some of them, it's all over. But Dana's.
But when you can work
amazing.
out a healthy relationship, which he obviously does because of the success of the business.
He's amazing. I mean, it's everything Dana's got. He deserved. He's a genius.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.